Okay, welcome everyone to pre-primary English session related to classroom management. And classroom management refers to the decisions an educator makes regarding the teaching materials, resources, the physical environment, and time to support the learning objectives and goals of the curriculum. Effective classroom management is crucial because it can have a positive impact on the learning abilities and outcomes for each young student. In this presentation, we explore how educators recognize and apply appropriate classroom management strategies and methods for the young learner or primary language classroom. We will examine the three following questions. What is the importance of proper classroom management for young learner primary classrooms? What possible benefits, challenges, and various aspects should educators consider in classroom management? And what are the different strategies of classroom management for the young learner primary classroom available for ELT educators? And let me introduce our brilliant speaker, Charlotte Rance, who is an OUP teacher trainer and consultant from Brighton. After 2 decades in ELT, Charlotte brings knowledge and experience from her classroom practice and roles including school management, educational sales, and materials development. I think the most important is that before working for OUP, Charlotte taught in pre-primary in the kindergarten in Turkey. So she has a lot of experience to share with you. Charlotte is an author of professional development courses and has contributed to a number of publications, including teachers' books, education blogs, and journals. Her area of focus is promoting student-centered learning, and as a trainer, she aims to provide practical strategies that teachers can really use. In her free time, Charlotte likes to solve puzzles and play board games, but also she loves traveling to very exotic countries. So please invite Charlotte over, and I'm sure she will come to you to visit. So thank you very much. And over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you so much, Anna. Can everyone hear me clearly? Give me a yes in the chat box. Thank you so much, Allegra. Yeah, you're used to seeing me as a moderator. You'll be talking about LTOC. And yes, we have been doing some LTOC preparations. So if you haven't registered for the upcoming LTOC in about 2 weeks' time, get there and you'll see me again. And we actually have some sessions on classroom management during LTOC as well. So lots and lots of yeses coming in. I can see that everyone can hear me nice and clearly. And while Anna was doing her wonderful introduction there, I noticed that we seem to have most of Europe in the room. So I'm really pleased about this. It's fantastic to see such a range of different teachers in different countries with us today. So, classroom management in pre-primary. Wow, what a question. And I like to think about this topic as being the hardest job in English language teaching, I'd say. People say, oh, teenage students, they're so hard to work with. But you really have to be brave, strong, and ready for anything to be a successful kindergarten, pre-primary teacher. I applaud all of us. So the 67% of you that have been doing it already, well done. And for those of you that have pre-primary in your future, good luck. I think some good morning exercises will help you to get ready for the excitement, the joy, and the challenge that comes with being a pre-primary teacher. Yeah, early primary too, as Allegra rightly points out. The young ones, they are full of so much energy, engagement, excitement, and confusion. So let's go. Now, throughout this session, we are going to be talking about classroom management, but we're going to be looking at it holistically, okay? We're going to start with what is that classroom environment like? And what are we actually trying to achieve? What are our objectives here? We're going to be looking at the importance of play and the importance of routine to classroom management. We're going to be looking at some practical ideas for implementation and building those stages. And at the end, we're going to be reflecting a little bit through some questions. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's do this. Supporting whole child development. I said at the top of this session that I think early primary, pre-primary, KG is the hardest job in teaching English. Because when you're a pre-primary teacher, you may be a pre-primary English teacher, but that's not the only thing you are teaching. In pre-primary, as educators, whether we are an English educator in pre-primary, a maths teacher in pre-primary, an arts and crafts teacher in pre-primary, or like I was, just a general kindergarten teacher, we are supporting the development of the whole child at the same time. Pre-primary education nurtures the whole child. Language development is one part of what we do. So my question to the chat box, as very early primary teachers, pre-primary teachers, what else are we developing with our students alongside those linguistic skills? What else are the children in our classrooms learning from us? English and what? Let's see. Got some hellos from Georgia. I've never been to Georgia. Georgia has not been ticked off my travel list. Aha, some great answers coming through. Okay, yeah. So maths, definitely. Numeracy, yeah, we cover that. Motivation, love for language, as Nermina has pointed out. Yeah, hopefully, yes. We're spawning the future English teachers of the world. Some lovely answers coming in around ideas like values, empathy, social skills. And a key one that we need to bear in mind with our classroom management is the idea that Milika has shared of emotion regulation, self-regulation, learning how to be a student, learning how to be part of a classroom, learning how to learn, and managing all of those emotions at the same time. So let's see, what else did we come up with on here? So we've mentioned the linguistic, we've mentioned those social and emotional elements, but we're also teaching, as someone said, mathematical elements, early literacy elements, musical elements, cognitive processing, physical development, and creative development as well. There's a lot going on. And as early years, primary, pre-primary teachers of English, we are really teaching all of these things as well, which is what makes the job incredibly challenging, but also very, very rewarding. And I loved my time as a kindergarten teacher in so many ways. Yes, I usually came home looking like I had been pulled through a hedge, but I was happy and I was smiling. So yeah, let's explore this a little bit easier. So what can we say about this whole child development? They're learning how to learn. They're learning how to learn, and they do not learn in the same way that adults do. They do not learn in the same way that teenagers do. They do not learn in the same way that 10-year-olds do. They're not absorbing language through those typical formal instructions that we see with older students. They're not capable, they're not developed mentally enough to grow language through abstract concepts. So what does that mean for us as teachers? We need repetition, we need interaction, and we need sensory input at all times. This is true for the learning, but it's also true for the classroom management. It's very, very true that when we have our young learners in front of us, if we explain the rules in an abstract way, they're not going to follow and understand effectively. As teachers in pre-primary, our job is to be a model. Our job is to be a guide. Our job is to be a facilitator. And our job is to be there to pick them up when they fall down, to help them when they make a mistake, and to show them that those mistakes are part of the learning process. If we can put those foundations in early, we will be much more successful. And we will be getting letters from high school teachers saying, thank you so much for all the hard work you did at the beginning of this child's education that makes my life easier today. Or so we can hope. So what does a classroom look like? A young learner's classroom, a very young learner's classroom, is a selection of moments put together. Little building blocks that help us to build and develop the processes that happen in the young learner classroom. You'll notice here, the first thing that I'm pointing out is the variety of classroom activities that we see. And our very, very young learners need this variety. We need stirrers, things to get them engaged, things to energize them, things to get them ready. And we talk about action games. We talk about action songs. We talk about energizers. We talk about TPR, total physical response activities. Activities that young learners can physically engage with. And acting out, of course. At the other end, we need to build them up sometimes, but sometimes we need to bring them down because it's very easy for our young learners to power the electricity with their energy. Sometimes we need them to calm. And in those moments, we use those settlers, the handouts, the listening activities, the arts and crafts activities that they can put their focus into, that can calm them, that can soothe them. And in between that, we've got all of those little bits that we're teaching to get them accustomed to the processes of the classroom. So we're talking table games, we're talking drilling, we're talking dialogue practice. And when we look at that map of the lesson at the bottom of the screen, what we see is that we start with our opening routines. And then maybe from there, we bring our energy up for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes. And then we might keep it stable for a little while. Maybe we want to bring that energy up again, but then we're going to need to cool them down. And when we've cooled them down, we're going to want them to get their energy back up again so that we can go into our closing routines. So our roller coaster lesson is a roller coaster. And it's a roller coaster that we piece together out of all of these little bits. When does classroom management happen? All the way through. I think that one thing we can say is that we think of classroom management often when we're teachers as being keeping things under control, keeping things organized, keeping everybody on task, getting the results we want. But actually, classroom management is so much more than that. Classroom management is what enables us to lose control at times, to bring fun, to bring energy, but have the confidence as teachers that when we need to, we can calm those students down again. And it's all about that give and take. So let's look a little bit more at some of the concrete elements that go into making pre-primary learning successful. And we're talking here about the role of play and the role of routine. Now, play may seem like a strange word to talk about when we are talking about classroom management. But play in the young learner's classroom is learning. Learning success will happen when it is embedded in play. And I believe the upcoming session from Rob Peacock is all about looking at those ideas as well. So what does that mean? Play comes in lots of different forms. Anna mentioned in my introduction that I like a board game, and games are part of play. But we're not just talking about games here. We're talking about the idea of playfulness, the idea that we can find joy and happiness and fun in all of the little things that we do in the classroom. So everything we are doing is engaged in some sort of play. And that's true for classroom management too. You want to tidy up the classroom? It's going to be a game. You need to move from the garden area back into the classroom. You're going to do that with a song. You're going to do that with a chant. You need to teach them values and morals of how to share, how to take turns. We're doing that through stories, through finger plays, through drama and acting out. We're looking at what it takes to be a good learner. We're going to do an arts and crafts project to do that. We're going to try something new. We're going to get our hands dirty and we're going to experiment with that. Our classroom management is play too. We're not talking punishment. We're talking engagement. We're talking motivation. And we're talking emotional connection, relatedness, feeling happy, feeling confident. And when the children are happy and confident, classroom management becomes much easier. So we talk about that. But the other thing we need to talk about is routine. And routine is critical to classroom management success in the very young learner classroom. Arguably, routine is critical to success in anything. As adults, we have routines in our lives that help us to manage our homes. I have a morning routine that involves me washing the dishes, which means that every day I start my day with nice clean dishes, and it's part of my routine. I boil the kettle, I do the dishes, I manage my life through routine. And the same is true in our classroom. You can see lots of appreciative emojis coming through on that one. I'm glad I'm not the only one that has to have classroom routines to manage my life. Yeah, I am a kindergarten teacher at heart. What can I say? I love a routine. So in the chat box, why are these wonderful routines so important? Aha! Erwin has made a really valuable point there. Expectation. Expectation. When you are 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, the entire world around you is confusing. The adults around you, you don't know what they're doing or why they are doing anything. As Natalia and Olha have just said, routines help children feel safe. Knowing what to expect helps them to be braver, to be more confident. If they know the rules around them, they can take away that stress. Absolutely. Gintare mentions forming habits, and Nino has come through with habits as well. Yeah, absolutely. With developing the habits and the expectations of school behavior. Yeah. What do we need to get drilled into them from an early age? And we're talking things here like how to engage in learning in an effective way, how to listen when they need to listen, how to talk when they need to talk. Absolutely, it does develop that discipline. Mike brings up the idea that following routines teaches kids how to manage tasks on their own. Absolutely. When things are formulaic, when there is a process to follow, it helps the children to become more agentic, more independent, more autonomous. They get used to doing those things. And as the opening comment to this question from Ervin says, it enables them to tell us what's going to happen next, because they know the routines. They can feel confident in that. So many great reasons to have routines, but where do they fit? And let's see. So there we go. Couple of the points that you've seen here that have already come out. So influencing the child's emotional, cognitive, and social development, helping children to feel secure, to understand those expectations, reducing behavior problems. And I'm always cautious when I use the word behavior problems. There's a quote that I love, which says that, if a child doesn't know how to read, we teach them how to read. If they don't know how to swim, we teach them how to swim. And if they don't know how to behave, we should teach them how to behave. Not punish that behavior, but teach those expectations. So reducing those behavior problems, but also thinking of them not as problems, but as learning opportunities. And all of this results in higher rates of young learner engagement. When do we have these routines? Routines happen at every stage. Routines and our classroom management are the same thing. If we get the routine down, the management becomes second nature. So we can talk about opening routines. And I'm sure those of you that are currently teaching in the kindergarten environment have your own opening routines. In my classroom, we used to start with a song about what's the weather like. We'd ask questions around how we're feeling every day. We'd have a story at the beginning of the lesson, and we'd all sit together in a group. That opening routine then transitions into the process of circle time or table time, and we have routines for that as well. Transitional routines, when we're moving from physical space to physical space, but also transitional routines when we're moving from one type of mental activity to another. Energy building routines, getting them ready for activity, warm-up activities to start, lovely response. Settling down routines, classroom routines generally, closing routines as we say goodbye at the end of the day, and goodbye songs. Now, Anna mentioned a really useful website beginning of her introduction, and I'm going to share the link again here, which is Oxford Parents. One thing that I would say when it comes to success with our classroom management is building good relationships with parents is central to success. Good relationships and sharing. And I fully suggest sharing your opening routines, your transition routines, your goodbye songs, your hello songs, your tidy up songs with parents. Make a recording of the children singing that they can take home. Ask the kids to teach their parents and encourage those parents to use the same songs at the same times in the classroom. So if you have a tidying up song that you use in your classroom, encourage the parents to sing it with the child when they clear away the dishes. Absolutely. As Anissa has said here, it helps to make the kids feel safe. It builds that connection between home and the classroom. If I can do this thing in my classroom and I also do it in my home, it becomes part of that pattern, making those connections together. The Oxford Parents website that I've just sent the link through about, and there is the pop-up as well, so I'm sure we can share that again at the end of the session, is to say that there are lots. Thank you so much to the wonderful Yulia in the background with her pop-ups. What a great team. They are all so wonderful. Yeah, give them access to the words and the phrases that you use. Provide a translation to your L1 as well. So, what do we say in the classroom and what does it mean? Encourage, get that support from the parents when it comes to the routines that you are using. So, a little map here of my typical opening routine in the classroom. Obviously, starting with greetings, saying hello, and encouraging those simple usages of English along the way. So I would give in my class different words that they could use. So always in the classroom, you hear students, how are you today? I'm fine, thank you. And you? And after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years in the classroom, I'm fine, thank you, and you can become a little repetitive for the teacher. So one thing I like to do with my greetings, I'll give them different phrases that you can use. Hi, how are you today? I'm happy. Hi, how are you today? I'm excited. And my challenge in my circle time was to use a different word from the first person. So you can have the same word again, but you cannot say the same word that the person before you said. So trying to give them opportunities to be brave, to try new words and give things out. Then your hello song, and that is always the same. It keeps them safe, it keeps them happy, it signals that we are ready to learn. Again, a short conversation with the puppet if you are using a puppet. And oh my goodness, you gotta love a puppet, because a puppet is every teacher's best friend when it comes to classroom management. They can do a lot of things that we cannot do, and together, me and my puppet can work magic in terms of modeling behaviors, regulating student behaviors. So have a short conversation with the puppet and use that to introduce what we are going to be talking about in the lesson. How are you today? I'm fine, thanks. Actually, I was reading a book about bears. Ooh, do you like bears? Yes, I do. And then we get the puppet involved. Do you like bears? Use the children's name. Hi, Anissa, do you like bears? Hi, how are you today? What's going on? Get those interactions repeated every single day. And you can do little changes, but keep that pattern the same. And then I would end with, what's the day? What's the date? What's the season? We're ready to learn. Let's go. So that's the idea of an opening routine. A closing routine will look quite similar, but we also have routines throughout the classroom, and we will look a little bit at those in a moment. So let's see how we can embed these elements in. Oh, Greta, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've taken puppets to teenage classrooms and some teenagers love them. So it really does depend on the group and not necessarily the age of the student. Some of them can get a bit too cool for school as they get older, but you can always bring in a puppet. And as our learners become more and more digital, I'm sure we will soon have classroom avatars that we can have conversations with. Lovely. All right. So how do we implement these things in then? We talked about supporting the whole child. Hey, yes, Milan, great idea. Try a Spider-Man puppet. Try an older puppet. Yeah, absolutely. Or get the kids to bring in a puppet. Get the kids to choose a puppet. And it doesn't even have to be something that is handheld. Anything can be a useful talking point. I have a potato that I used to use. It looks like a round, it's not like a stuffed potato with a face, but it's a potato. Yeah, it can be anything. It can be anything. And do encourage the kids to bring in their own. So linguistic development. What are we using to support this, and how does that connect in with classroom management? So linguistically, we are using storytelling, we are using songs. These are language models. But as I said, our songs can be our classroom management. Our stories teach behaviors. So we're not only giving classroom management through stories and through songs, but we're also supporting linguistic development by doing this, if we're doing it in English. And that's the other thing. Role plays. Role plays are linguistic development, of course, but they are also opportunity to try things, to try new behaviors, to learn how to do these different things that they are expected to do in the classroom. So role plays of how to share, how to take turns. We see language in free play. And again, the teacher is modeling through repeated vocabulary, repeated ideas. And of course, they get language through all of those games, and those games are teaching. So I mentioned stories are our classroom management. What are we learning through this story, do we think? Hello, frog. Hello, monkey. Oh, a mango. I like mangoes. Look, frog, I can jump. Wow. Oh no, my mango. It's okay, monkey. I can swim. What are we learning here? What's our classroom management lesson in this story? Anyone here that can read between those lines? Let's have a look. Action verbs, absolutely. But what's there? Yeah, friendship. And friendship equals helping each other. So can and can't, as Boyana says, absolutely. But can and can't to help through friendship, cooperation. So again, we see the learning of our classroom management and our expectations is embedded into the stories. We want to see the behavior, and we can see how it continues on here. You know, thank you, frog, you're a good friend. And we can talk about this. And in the classroom, as part of our classroom management, we can say to the kids, how can we be a good friend in school? How can we be a good friend? When we come back and we notice those negative behaviors, yeah, absolutely, sharing, helping. These are great morals that we're teaching, great opportunities. And when our kids face problems, or when our kids demonstrate behaviors we don't want to see, we can use those stories to trigger those memories. So we can say, do you remember? What did Frog do when Monkey needed help? Frog jumped in the water to rescue the mango. Fantastic. Frog was helping. How do you use these stories in your lessons? Absolutely lots of different ways, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. But yeah, give me 1 second, Lilia, and we will answer that. Language skills, cognitive skills, social skills, bodily awareness, and fine motor skills in development through stories. So what do we do them? Well, here's an example. We get involved. We show actions. If you've got a big book, yes, there's always time for a big book. But the key thing is repetition. Repetition. That story will not go in once. The moral will not go in once. You need to keep repeating. So doing it in different ways. So when we read the story the first time, maybe we just read it. When we read it a second time, we might put some actions in. So this time, and I want you to do it, even though I can't see you, we're going to make a snake, okay? And we're going to all do the hiss together. So after we've read the story the first time, maybe we've watched it in a video, maybe we've done that, go through again, and this time we do the actions. Walking in the jungle. I heard a weird sound. I got scared. And we can ask the children. And as Janet says, get the kids to give their ideas. What do you do when you're scared? I hide my eyes. Okay. I hug my mum. I hug myself. So we can do the actions along. Get the kids to show their actions. I got scared. I wondered what it was. Oh, it was a snake. Hiss. It was a snake. Hiss. And get them engaged. Now, I guarantee it's a primary young learners, very young learners classroom. There will be at least one child who is looking at something else, okay? Classroom management in these situations, I would recommend proximity. So if you've got a child that commonly gets distracted in these big group settings, locate yourself as the teacher nearby. Or, and someone mentioned earlier in the chat box, giving them their roles. So if you've got that one student who is always distracted, give them a job to do. Ask them to come and help you. Get the focus changed around. How do you make them take turns while speaking? Practice, Violetta. Absolutely practice. The more often we can practice, the better off we are. Opportunities for repetition will become the most important thing in managing that classroom effectively. So if you're doing speaking, support those behaviors as clearly as you can during that point in time. Go through, and if you're taking turns, model that behavior. Use your puppet. Say, okay, I will go first. You do the activity. So if we're reading a story or if we're playing a game, I do the action as the teacher, and then I will say to my puppet, now it's your turn. Thank you. Okay, now it's my turn. And your puppet does the action. So modeling first, applauding the behaviors when you see them, recognizing those behaviors, and moving on. Story circles, absolutely. And Irvin, please feel free in the chat box to explain to a little bit more what story circle is. I'm sure there are many teachers in here going, oh, what is story circle? So give them some information. Please do feel free. Best thing we can do when we're sharing ideas as teachers is to go back to those things and share as many ideas as we possibly can. Right, so when it comes to games, again, repetition and that turn-taking element, games like this, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kim's game. We're going to practice it in a minute, but Kim's game is a memory game, so lots of linguistic practice. But when it comes to the turn-taking, as the teacher, you are there to facilitate and guide. So we ask the students, okay, we make sure we have drilled all the language. What can we see? What's there? And in the next step on Kim's game, of course, we take something away and we ask our students to say what's missing. Who's gone? Who's gone missing at this point in time? Can anyone identify our missing person? We lost the monkey. Did anyone see? All right, we're not sure. Yeah, lovely, fantastic. Now, when it comes to exercises like this, we're going to have students who will be quicker than others. And if we want to keep our classroom management balanced, Instead of saying yes to the first student that gives the correct answer, we can say, that's a good answer. Do you think that's true? And then we can check our answers. If someone comes through with the wrong answer, so maybe someone has said to me, a parrot is missing. So there wasn't a parrot there. Say, are you sure? What does everyone else think? So we're not saying yes, we're not saying no. We are showing reaction and we are modeling that everybody needs to give the answer before we can proceed with that. Now, of course, we also need to think a little bit about ideas when it comes to actions and turn taking. And one thing that we can use for this is finger plays. Finger plays are great for attention grabbing. Now, most classroom management problems come out of distraction. And keeping that focus from all students is very tricky at times. So getting engagement and physical response is a great way of keeping that focus down. Finger plays develop fine motor skills. We want to develop those. Hand-eye coordination, very important for very young learners. Language skills, cognitive skills, social skills, and bodily awareness as well. So lots of great things coming out as additional benefits. But yeah, puppet dolls and finger responses are also a great thing to do. What do we mean by finger plays? So here's one that I don't know if you are familiar with. I'm not going to do the whole thing for you. But finger plays are things that very young learners can engage with just by using their hands. And they love to do and get engaged with them. So my 4-year-old niece, Sylvie, she has a favorite called Wind the Bobbin Up, which has lots of actions that she loves to do and gets very annoyed at me if I do them wrong. This one is a simple one. So it goes one finger, turn, 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 turn into a worm. Crawl, crawl, crawl. And then we go to two fingers, turn, turn, turn. Turn into a rabbit. Jump, jump, jump. Okay. 3 fingers turns into a butterfly. 4 fingers turns into a cat. 5 fingers turns into a tiger. So little activities like this are great for bringing that focus back again. Okay, thank you, Irvin, for sharing the details of that activity. Much appreciated. Now, one of the most important things is that social emotional development. So we're talking here about those group activities, turn taking, empathy, self-expression through drama. And great question, Elena. Let me answer that now. So, do the kids see the text or not while doing the hand game? First rule of language development in very young learners' classroom is always we say it and they hear it first. So we read with no words. Before we show them any words, we read it again and again. We also will ask them to say it, to join in before the words. And the words themselves will not come until much later. In fact, and I'm sure it's true for many people in this audience, some kindergartens in some countries do go completely pre-literacy. So it's only oral and listening. There's no reading and writing in some very young learners' classrooms in some because they are still at the same time developing their first language literacy skills. So in some countries, you'll find that there will be no written forms of young learner English at all. In other places, it will come, but it's always oral, spoken, and listening first. Okay. Now, turn-taking activities, group activities, empathy, yeah, better without text. I think it's more engaging because the text becomes a distraction, especially when you are not fluent at reading yet in your own language, let alone your second language. So yeah, and kids have a brilliant capacity to pick things up through listening. It's how we learn our first language. That's the way our brains pick up language. So in our very young learners classroom, without the text is generally the best. Bring the text in later, but get them to talk about it first. Yeah, listen and repeat, listen and repeat, listen and repeat 1,000 times over. So yeah, social and emotional development coming in. And again, we can see here morals coming from the stories. So as I said, use your puppet, use your stories to teach behavior. And you can see this is an example little photo story from Blue Dot, where we can see the children giving and taking turns. And in the classroom, we bring that back to reality so we can practice it. You can practice with the puppet. The kids can practice with the puppet. The kids can practice with each other. And again, we send these phrases home. So if you're teaching, it's my turn, it's your turn, and turn taking, tell the parents. Yep. Yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me. So Allegra mentions in Macedonia, they start writing in the 3rd grade in primary. Yeah, it's not uncommon. So yeah, don't feel that that's an obligation. And again, we see here stories in Blue Dot teaching the behaviors that we want to see. We do not punish, we teach the behaviors we want to see. Okay. So, what else do we need to talk about in terms of classroom management? Opportunities to celebrate different elements of the classroom, that intercultural development that happens. Because when we look at today's young learners, they have they've come into a very strange world. They've been through quite a lot more than most people of our age had. And globally, what we are seeing is that through a mixture of technology use, looking at some of the situations that we are teaching and educating in, and also with the impact that the pandemic had on us just 5 years ago, we're seeing a lot of situations where our children are coming into schools now. They are social, but they are not socialized. What do I mean by that? They want to talk to each other, but they don't know how. They haven't had the same level of input in these situations. So, what can we do? Providing opportunities to learn how we interact. How do we do that? We can do that by celebrating the cultures around us. We can do that by bringing in diverse music and stories and honoring the home languages as well. And we can see in Toy Team here, so there's an example from Toy Team, that we are providing opportunities to talk about things around them. What can we see and how do we behave? How do we act in these different situations? So talking about how we can use all of the different opportunities around us to reinforce those lessons that we want them to learn. Early literacy, of course, as we've said throughout, is all about developing opportunities for learning, whether that's learning what we're doing. But one of the opportunities that we can use most is to have our opportunities for musical development. And I'm so excited that Song Pals is coming, because I do think that musical learning is a great way to encourage and guide behaviors in a kindergarten classroom. Singing and rhythm are naturally engaging. Kids can get involved physically, making instruments, playing along, and having fun, moving and dancing. So songs are such a useful classroom management tool. Not only do these sorts of activities help us to develop our physical skills, especially if, like this activity from Blue Dot, which involves the students making their own musical instruments, I'm going to practice all of those linguistic bits that we want to get exposed to, and all of those fine motor skills they need to develop. But at the same time, they are bringing to life an opportunity for learning how to be in the classroom. Songs and chants. So in the classroom, songs, chants are incredibly powerful, and we use them at every stage as part of our learning process and part of our classroom management process. Songs can help us get ready to learn, warm-up activities. Songs reinforce language. When we teach the song from the book, we're teaching and practicing the vocabulary, but they can also signal a transition in the lesson. Tidy up, let's get clean. We've got songs for everything. Put your pens away, And every classroom book will have a song for that purpose, but you can also make up your own. Don't feel obliged to do anything that's in the book. If you don't want to, you can always make up your own. You can create them with your class, but do teach them to the parents. Yeah, absolutely. Yana says it's not just useful for kids, but for adults learning new language. They grasp it quickly. Absolutely. I lived in Istanbul for many, many years, and some of the first Turkish I learnt was from listening to pop music. Music can be such a useful tool. Music is also a key energizer. Music can be fun, and music can shut your lesson down as well. So, where are we using these transition songs? Table time songs, circle time songs, indication that this is the time that we are going. And you can sing those as the teacher, or you can play them, through your speakers in the classroom. So if you've got one on YouTube, perhaps, that you love, or one from your course book that you love, you can play it. And it's immediately that aural trigger for the students. They hear it, they know this is what's expected of me. So when it's story time, the story time song comes on. When it's tidy up time, the tidy up song comes on. When it's time to line up and leave the classroom to go to lunch, to go to the bathroom, to go to wherever you're going, the line up song comes on. We can also use chants, and I've shared a few of these with you here. So, we've got one for calming down and getting ready for circle time. Hush, shh, quiet, please. Let's all gather near. Find a friend to hold their hand. Circle time is here. If we're needing the students to get back to their desk, we might use the one with the red background. Walk, walk, walk with me. It's as easy as can be. March, march, march with me. It's as easy as can be. Stop, listen, look at me. Go to your tables. 1, 2, 3. Signal the behaviors we're expecting to see. And again, we can use these specifically at moments to calm down. So if you've got a child that's not sitting down when it comes to sitting down time, I like the way that Tetiana's sitting. I like the way that Charlotte's sitting. I like the way that Zana's sitting. Can you sit like they? are. Get them to look at the behaviors you want to see. Use those rhymes, use those chants to concrete, to implement those management moments. A few other examples are always available. I think, a couple of people have asked, do we have these? So if you're using an Oxford coursebook, there will be chants in your teacher's book that you can use. There are also resources for chants on the Oxford Parents website that I shared earlier. And you can find hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds online. But don't forget, you can also make up your own. So we are coming now to the end of our session, and I'd like just quickly to do a little bit of reflection. So in the chat box before you go, what is one thing you would like to take away from this session? What is one idea that you're going to go? Milan says, never thought about using music as a leitmotif in the classroom. Great idea. It really is, so leitmotif is a thing that is used in movies. If you've ever seen Star Wars, when Darth Vader comes along, he has a piece of music that tells the audience it is coming, And that's the same in the classroom. A little bit of music to trigger that certain things are coming. Alina's taking everything. Fantastic. Chants, even though you can't sing, you don't have to sing. Get the kids to sing. You just have to teach them first. Finger games, the potato. Why not? Get your own potato. Why not? Fake playing guitar, working like a charm. Yes. Chants, 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 always chants, finger games. Fantastic. Lots of great ideas. Things that I want you to remember as we're going forward. Classroom management is done through play. Classroom management is done effectively through fun, and classroom management is done with the support of parents. So get them on board as quickly as you can. Share those ideas, share the techniques that you're using, and be consistent. And if we can do that, then we're going to get there. Right, I'm going to have a look at the Q&A tab and see if there are any questions in there. And I can see that lots and lots and lots of people have come up with a few questions in there. So I've got a question from Natalia, who says, could you provide us with a couple of attention getters that really work? Thank you. I am a big fan of simplicity. So my go-to attention getters are, with my very young learners, 1, 2, 3, look at me. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. 1, 2, 3, ears on me. Very, very simple. As they get older, I tend to take the oral instruction out of it and just move to a visual guidance. So if I want them to get attention, I might just, I don't know if you can hear that on the microphone, snap my fingers in the air, and I'll eventually move to just doing that. The older they get, the less I will give them. But yeah, I think simplicity is key. There is no right and wrong answer. It's whatever feels right in your classroom, Natalia. We also have a question from Lilia on how do you use stories. So yeah, big books, number one. Do read them, do show the pictures, but the key to success with stories is engaging. So anything you can do to get the kids involved. When I was a little girl, when I was a very little girl, when I was a kindergarten student, my favorite story that my mum used to tell me was The Three Billy Goats. I don't know if you know it, but I loved that story because my mum always did the same actions and the same voices. So she would trip, trap over the bridge. And even in my adult head, I can hear my mother's voice in my head today telling me that story. So to be truly effective with your stories is to get their engagement. If they can make an action with the story, make an action. If there's a repeated phrase that you can get them to say at the same time, say that. I think we've got time for maybe one more question. And we've had
Yes.
a great one. Hello. Come
Yeah,
on,
so
Cameron,
good,
join me. Come on, Cameron, join me.
hey, how
Come
are
back,
you?
Anna. Hello. I'm just going to deal with Alina's question here. So she asks, like, how do we? What are the stages of teaching these chants? I
Yeah.
think that's a great question. The answer is start doing them. That's the only key to it. Do them, and do them every day. And be big with your actions. So if it's tidying up, show the actions of tidying up. If it's sitting down, and really exaggerate your actions, but the best way to do it is to do it repeatedly every single day. Just start. Day one, pick your chance. You know, when you're planning your first week of lessons with your students, say to yourself, right, what is my plan for the year? What is my hello song? Do I know it off by heart, inside out, back to front, upside down? What actions am I going to do with it? What's my goodbye song? What's my tidy up chant? What's my transitional chant? Make those decisions and then start doing it, and do it every day. Do it multiple times in every lesson. Do it the same way, and the kids will very, very quickly get on board and have fun. That's the most important key. Oh, what
Yeah.
a lovely, lovely group of teachers we've been
Oh,
working
thank
with
you so
this
much.
afternoon, Anna.
Well, thank
Um,
you so much for such a practical session. There's
well,
so many ideas and so much appreciation I can see, like, shared by emoji by teachers. So
they're
thank you
they're
so
not
much.
they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones. I am hugely appreciative too. And as we come to the end of this classroom management session for young learners, we'd also like to take a moment to say thank you and to honour someone else whose contribution to education reaches far beyond the classroom. And I'm talking about that woman right there, Anna Morris, who for 30 years has been playing such an important role in supporting and advancing English language
Oh
education
wow, come
in
on.
Ukraine, in Latvia, in Lithuania, in Estonia, in Albania, in North Macedonia, in Bosnia, in and Herzegovina, where I will be very soon, in Kosovo, in Moldova, and more countries. I even knew her name in Turkey as well. So we just want to take a moment in the
Thank
chat
you so
box.
much.
Tell us your love. What are the words that you think of when you think of Anna Morris? And we got lots and lots and lots of wonderful thank yous
Oh, guys,
coming
thank
through,
you
of
so much.
course.
Thank you so much.
But
You're
we
doing
want
so
we just wanted to make sure that we are celebrating Anna because she is a legend of Ukrainian education and someone whose legacy will always be there. So use the emojis at the bottom, use your hands, give her a massive round of applause.
Oh, guys, thank you so much. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Anna is fantastic, they say. Voila, Anna, yes.
Oh, I love being with you so much. This is unbelievable. So this is such an incredible journey, and I can see that you've got so much out of it. So that's my thanks. I think one of the reasons I am with Oxford University Press for such a long time is because of the impact we can do. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it, and it's not expected. So. Totally not expected. Okay, I'm going to click all the links now. So
all right. Well, thank you so much for your time, wonderful teachers and wonderful Anna. It's been lovely. I'm going to get off the screen and let Anna wrap everything up and tell you the important information that she needs to tell you. Thank you for your time today. Take care. Have a lovely rest of your academic year.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.